Half a day, super day Friday. Welcome to the Bro Show, where we talk about everything and anything and try to make sense of what's happening. The Bro Show is being brought to us by Evian Natural Spring Water. Water the way nature intended. It is balanced, pure, and clean drinking water. Nothing added, so we can reach our natural peak. Evian is available in all convenience stores and grocery stores island-wide and, of course, worldwide. Water is life, and Evian is the water for our life. My name is DJ Dudes, your true Manila man, and I am with the bros. Starting with the winningest pizza eating champion, the Professor Matt Lesser Mattel. Prof, good morning to you.
Good morning, DJ Dudes. Good morning, Bodge. And I must say that we are really honored to have this guy in our show today. I've been following this guy since the 90s, and I all the way until now, one of the greatest coaches in the Philippine basketball history. I won't preempt it. I'll hand it over to Bodge.
And to complete our Bro Force, two-time karaoke Grand Slam champion, Mr. Bojo Molina.
Oh, we're going to singing right now. I don't think we inform our guests that we'll be going on the karaoke tour right now. But believe it or not, also when I was growing up, being able to follow the teams that he coached and how he brings them to the pinnacle of Philippine basketball, double Grand Slam. Ika nga, di ba nga? Well, I am honored, and good morning to everyone, Prof, Dudes, and to all the listeners of 101.9 FM, The Bro Show.
Yes, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Bojo. Well, today is a dream come true. 3 letters to describe it. It's OMG. The basketball gods are smiling at the Bro Show right now because of our incomparable guest. He is the king of drinks, whether it's milk, coffee, or gin. It doesn't matter because he will make it win.
That would be fun.
Obviously. Well, obviously, he has won everything. You know what? It's almost impossible to win a Grand Slam in the PBA, but he did it twice, and he is positioned to do it again very soon. We're counting on that. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is not just a noun. It is an adjective for greatness. Oh my goodness. The greatest coach in Philippine basketball history. Coach Tim Cone!
Wow. Thank you. But there's only really one greatest coach in Philippine basketball. Let me start that off by saying that's Baby Dalupan. Baby Dalupan was the man. He was the GOAT. And great guy, great person. I got to know him well later in his career. It was an honor to know him and to be around him.
Coach Tim Cone, thank you so much. You're really humble, and we cannot thank you enough to all the things that you have given, not just to the basketball in the Philippines, but to the culture of the Filipinos. Because, well, we have a saying in the Philippines, right? Basketball is a religion, and definitely you're the Buddha. We are so excited to have you here. Prof, Bojo, we have so much questions. We want to get to know Coach Tim Cone more deeply, more intimately. So, Prof and Bodge, take it away.
All right. As accustomed, DJ Dudes, we want to know more about our guests. We want to know, more the more casual side of them. So, Coach, we're going to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. Straight up answers. Sure. You don't have to think about it. Just let us know what flies out of your head.
I don't have rapid fire answers. My answers are really long. I blab and blab. So be careful.
All right, okay. I'll start off. Duke or UNC?
Duke.
Duke.
Okay. It's okay.
I like Coach K. I've read a lot about him. I've never met him, but I've read a lot about Coach K, and I like his style. I like the way he coaches. There's certain similarities that I've adopted that work for me as well.
Oh, great. Okay, anyways, Coach, I know you've visited a lot of places, and you mentioned earlier on our pre-interview conversation that you visited Guam. Which person are you? Or are you a beach person, or you go for the higher or mountain person?
Oh, no, I grew up in the Philippines, so I'm a beach person, of course.
There you go.
That's why I love Guam. we stayed right on the beach. The 2 times that we were there, I was with Alaska at the time. I'm sure some of the Guamanians will remember that, but we had a couple tournaments there. I remember Ruel Gomez hitting a 3-point shot at the buzzer to win one tournament. And that was 1994. And I remember that because that was when we really started to turn things around at Alaska. And that was kind of like our springboard, if I may say, into greatness. That tournament in Guam just kind of got us going. And we won that tournament and then just started to rise. And it culminated 2 years later in the Grand Slam in '96. So I'll never forget that tournament. Then I've been there a couple times on my own. I spent a few days there on the way to Hawaii. My sister lives in Honolulu, so I used to visit her in Honolulu. So we would stop in Guam and we would stay 3 or 4 days. I love the community of Guam. It's really tight. I have some really good friends that are there. Friends of my wife as well. So it's brings a lot of good things to us when we talk about Guam.
Wow. Coach, maybe it's time to come back to Guam so that Ginebra will get our own Grand Slam for Ginebra.
We did a tournament there that was a celebration of a championship at Alaska. And what we did is we went there for a tournament and we played in the tournament, and part of our championship reward was to stay in Guam for 4 extra days and just enjoy Guam for 4 extra days. And then we went to Hawaii for 4 days and then we flew back. But that was our championship prize, playing in that tournament and then going. I think there were 2 other PBA teams. Pure Foods was there and maybe Shell. I'm not sure. But we had a couple of teams that we did round robin. Then we played one of the base teams as well.
Wow, what a championship treat. It will be a championship treat for us fans to see you here together with all the players. Coach, another question. Lakers or Celtics?
Neither.
Nice answer.
I grew up a Lakers fan, I have to admit. I grew up a Lakers fan, and I was a huge fan of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was my hero. And then, of course, the Lakers drafted Magic Johnson, so I became a Magic Johnson fan. And I carried that for a big part of my youth and even into college. But once I started coaching, I stopped being fans of basketball teams. I really became fans of systems. And that's why I became I wasn't really a Bulls fan, but I was a Triangle fan. And they were running the Triangle. And, of course, we were running the Triangle. And I knew Tex Winter well. So I became a Bulls fan. And, of course, now the Triangle isn't run in the NBA anymore, so no more systems to look at. So now I've been fortunate to meet Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat, become a really good friend of his. So if anything, I cheer for the Heat. So Lakers and Celtics are both out of there.
Go Heat!
If I say one or the other, and Eric Spoelstra heard about it, he chopped my head off when he saw it.
So we know who's Coach Tim Cone is rooting for the conference finals right now on the East, and hopefully for the finals. Yeah,
they
have a big chance.
Yeah.
Game 4 tomorrow.
Yeah, Game 4.
Yeah,
Game 4. We don't know about it yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
We don't know about it. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Next rapid fire question, Coach. And this can be after any activity. Favorite Pinoy dish, whether it's after any game or,
Probably bulalo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Perfect when it's raining.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like I said, I grew up here, so I have all kinds of dishes that I've tried, and I've even eaten dog.
Okay.
Guilty also.
That was in the late '60s. I ate something. I didn't know what it was, but they told me afterwards what it was. And
That's the usual. That's the
They
usual
trick you.
case. Yeah. Okay. Coach, before we go to the actual questions that we have, the more sport related question. Okay, before we go to before this pandemic shut down everything, what was the last movie that you were able to see?
Yes.
Oh, God, what was that movie? Oh, it was a terrible movie.
All the more interesting.
With Robbie, what's her name? What's her name? Something Robbie. The pretty girl, and she played a blonde. She was a Joker's girlfriend.
Oh,
Yes.
Margot Robbie. Okay.
Margot.
Birds of
Margot
Prey.
Robbie.
Birds of
Yeah,
Prey.
Birds of Prey?
Yeah, Birds of Prey. It was terrible. I remember that. It was the last movie we saw in a theater. Yeah.
Okay.
Wife and I. And it was terrible.
I haven't watched it.
Pandemic.
So thank you for the heads up, Coach.
Thank you for letting us know.
Okay.
I mean, she was fun to look at, I have to admit.
Yeah,
but I mean,
exactly.
The movie itself was not that good. She's really pretty. She's
Okay.
You know, speaking of movies, there's this one story that I saw. Coach Tim Cone was being interviewed in a TV show. It was way back in 1995. Coach Tim, you were with your kids when you watched Toy Story 1. So you were interviewed. I don't know if you still remember that. And then
I'm sure it was.
and you gave some good words for Toy Story 2. That was the reason, and I'm not kidding you, okay? That was the reason we watched Toy Story 1 in the theaters. Normally, because way back then, we would just wait for the movie to come out to, in VHS,
Right.
to the videos.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll just wait for
Was a
that.
different
But
time.
when we saw the interview, we watched it in theaters.
Yeah. My daughter is now 29 and my son is 23. And I have another one who's 14. So, yeah, those were the days when we used to go to just every Disney show that ever came out. And that was one that the PBA helped sponsor, I believe. And we all went as a team, and all of our team members, our family members came with us. So, yeah, those were great shows. But now that my kids are too old, I don't watch them anymore. I used to love going to them because it was a good excuse. I have to take my son. I have to take my daughter. Now I have no excuse anymore. So
I thought you were still carrying one of your kids, on your arms.
Sure.
Yes, during that
was
interview.
probably Kevin. That was probably Kevin. Yeah,
Yeah.
my son Kevin. He's
Okay.
now in San Francisco
Oh.
working.
Hey,
Okay.
Budge? Yes.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
last question, and this is probably the most controversial one. Do you believe in love at first sight? So we read this somewhere, Coach, but that's the question. That's the actual question.
Wow. I didn't. That's out of the blue. Can we get farther away from sports?
Yes.
We're gonna get back to sports in a few.
In movies, I certainly believe it can be done in movies, but in real life, well, I dated my wife for 7 years before we got married, so
Wow.
we were absolutely sure by the time we got married we wanted to get married, so it was really great. But yeah, I went on a double date with my wife, and she was dating my friend, and I was dating her friend.
Oh.
Oh, we read that. Yeah.
In that date. And so I really wanted to date her. So I was really angry that night because I was hoping he matched with her. So, and we ended up, getting married, and 7 years later. So maybe there was a little bit of love at first sight.
It still worked well, right? It
There you
still worked well, yeah.
Yeah.
My wife is watching, and I have to say that, by the way.
Hello, Mrs. Cone. Coach, I do have a follow-up question, okay, regarding love at first sight. How about with players? Do you have that kind of experience that when you see a player, or for example, when you saw some of your players, you fell in love?
Yeah,
sort of like love at first sight.
For sure. And you won't remember this guy probably, but the first time I saw Merwin Costello,
Okay.
Who played for us in Alaska in the
Alaska.
Grand Slam team. And the first moment I saw him, I said, we got to get this guy. And yeah, that happens quite a bit. It happens with Justin Brownlee. The first moment he walked in. Also happened with Johnny Abarientos in our first practice. I mean, he had the most amazing first practice ever, where he just absolutely dominated our practice, and he was just a young rookie stepping in, and I'll never forget that. So yeah, I think there is, I mean, there's times when you're disappointed later on because you aren't able to get I think when you look at a player, you have a vision. You immediately get a vision of where this guy's going to fit or how he's going to play for you or what he's going to do for you. And so you kind of live with that vision. And I think you know the vision before that player does. And I think that's the key to good coaching is that you got to see a vision for a player and know where he's going to fit, know where he's going to be successful before that player even knows where that position is. And I think that's happened a lot to a lot of players. Sonny Thoss, another one.
Sonny Thoss, the boss.
Yeah,
Sonny Thoss,
the
the
boss.
first moment I saw him. But when we drafted him, we were almost booed. I mean, everybody was upset that we drafted him because he wasn't playing in the amateurs. He was playing like 4 or 5 minutes a game. It was in the amateur, in the PBL at that time. The game was super, super fast. They were up and down, up and down, up and down. And he was a big, 6'7" guy that wasn't getting back up and down the floor, so the coach wouldn't play him. And but when he came to the PBA and the tempo was his way, he was tremendous and tremendous character, tremendous person. So that's one of the guys we envisioned right away that would be very successful with us, and it turned out to be right. He was.
Coach Tim, if I'm not mistaken, Costello wore the number 4 jersey, right? When he was with you. Right, yes.
Wow, what a memory.
Coach Tim, I will be a little biased here because I'm a super Ginebra fan. Have you fell in love, sort of like love at first sight, with a Ginebra player right now? I'm sorry, I just have to insert that, right?
Well, I acquired all the players. I already knew them before I came to the team, so it wasn't like, I didn't know them from before. And, I had LA before, and, the first moment we got LA was wow. We just realized what kind of personality he had. We couldn't see it. Saw a little bit of it in Ateneo, and we saw a little bit of it with San Miguel. But San Miguel, he wasn't playing much. But when he came to our team, when you could see him really up close, wow, what a personality, character guy he is. And a real feisty fighter's personality. And but for Ginebra, I think right now the guy that I have a great vision for is Arvin Tolentino, our rookie. I really fell in love with his ability to shoot the ball. I think he's going to be a tremendous, exciting shooter for us. And I'm real excited about putting him in the lineup and letting him fly, because I just think that he can really impact the league with his ability to shoot the ball and shoot the ball from deep. In college, he played like a center or a stretch 4. And for us, he's going to play a 2-3 wing type player, and he's going to be shooting off screens and shooting deep threes and doing things like that. We really envision him. If you've watched, I'm probably putting too much pressure on the young kid, sorry. But if you watch the Miami Heat, he reminds me a lot of Duncan Robinson, the way Duncan Robinson. Because Duncan Robinson is 6'8", 6'9", tall shooter.
Yeah.
And Arvin's the same thing. He's about 6'5", which is tall for our league, and he can get his shot off on just about anybody, and he can shoot deep. I think it's going to take a little bit of development, just like it took for Duncan. Duncan, is in his second year. Mm-hmm. No one talked about him in his first year, but in his second year, he's exploded. And I think that Arvin has a chance to do something like that. So something to look forward to when you watch our game.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Coach, let's go to the meatier part of your basketball career, right? You are known as the most winningest coach in PBA history. But how did you, prior to coaching, and you lived in the Philippines also, so tell us about a little bit of a background, where you came from the Philippines, which province, and everything like that.
Well, I was actually born in Oregon, USA, a small town called Roseburg, which is about 15,000 people. So it's very small, not much, even smaller than Guam.
Yes.
Wow. Is there anything smaller than Guam?
Yeah.
The town was. So I left there when I was 9 years old, came to the Philippines with my parents and one of my sisters. And the first day after we arrived in Manila, we spent someplace in Cuneta Avenue. We spent the night there. I remember that vividly. It was, but I don't know where it was. It was like an apartment complex or something. The next morning, we drove to Baler, Quezon,
Okay.
and the hometown of Manuel Quezon. And I lived there and went to the public school for a year. And that's when I first picked up a basketball. The first place. I never picked up a basketball in Oregon. It was always football or baseball. I got to Baler. Everybody played basketball. So it was the only sport. And so I started picking up a basketball there. And I lived there for a year and went to the public school. And then after a year, my parents felt that my sister and I needed to move back to Manila. So we moved down to Manila, and I ended up going to the International School of Manila, ISM.
Yes, ISL.
And I graduated high school there. And then I went back to the United States for college. Went to the school in the West Coast for 2 years, and went to school in the East Coast for 2 years. Played basketball. Not a lot. I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was on a team. And then after that, I spent a couple of years in San Francisco, and then I called my mom and said, "Mom, I want to come home." And she said, "Come on back." She was an empty nester, so I flew back to Manila, and I stayed with my parents, and they were living at that time in southern Quezon, in the
Oh, wow. The higher part, yeah.
South of Lucena, yeah. And I lived there for another year and helped my dad out and working down there before. And then on one of my R&Rs up in Manila, one of my trips up to Manila, I met my wife. I went on that double date that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And she destroyed me. I mean, I couldn't live down there anymore. I had to move to Manila. So I moved back to Manila specifically to marry my wife. I mean, to date my wife. And eventually got into Vintage, which was the network that showed basketball. I was a commentator there.
Yes.
And then introduced there by Fred Utensu, who was the owner of Alaska. He got me to a gig there. And then I just started helping out the Alaska team informally, and then formally, and then I was a consultant and assistant coach, and then finally head coach. And,
wow.
That started in April 1989. That was my first.
Wow.
Started in the second conference of 1989.
Wow.
So is it safe to say, Coach?
Airport. Good. Sorry.
Coach, is it safe to say that Quezon actually produced Tim Cone?
Well, ironically, I lived there when I moved there, and I've lived there when I moved back. So,
well, yeah.
Quezon's in my blood, that's for sure.
So Quezon should really be proud.
To the far north and to the far south of Quezon.
Yeah.
It's a long province. It's a very long province.
Because technically, Coach, you've learned basketball in the Philippines, like what you have mentioned. You didn't play basketball in the States, right? It was in the Philippines.
Well, yeah. I didn't play when I was younger. I played college ball in the States later. I didn't play the younger. I always tell the story that I did not watch an NBA game on TV or tape or anything until I was 18 years old. It's the first time I ever saw an NBA game, and that was we flew to Los Angeles, and we were there. We arrived, and I remember my aunt lived in Los Angeles. We were visiting my aunt, and I was able to watch the Phoenix Celtics NBA championship with Paul Westphal and
Paul Westphal,
and Gar Hurd. I remember Gar Hurd was on that team because he made that big shot. But I watched that series that was the first time I ever watched the NBA, was in the NBA Finals on TV. But up to that, I was strictly a Mika and PBA fan. I mean, that's all I ever watched was Mika and PBA. I was a big Moralco fan, then I became a big Toyota fan, and then broke up, and there was Ginebra and Manila Beer.
Manila Beer.
Yeah. Mon Fernandez went to Manila Beer, and Sonny went to Ginebra. And I'm not sure why, but I picked Mon Fernandez to follow. I was a big fan of both growing up, but I kept following Mon Fernandez. So I went and watched Manila Beer, and I became a Manila Beer fan and followed Mon Fernandez's career, which is kind of cool because I got to coach against both of them.
Exactly. You did.
Heroes growing up, and
they played, and they both coached at the same time.
The first few years that I was, of course, Sonny, played till he was 50, so he was there for most of my career. But Mon, he was with San Miguel. In fact, the year I entered the league was the year San Miguel was winning the Grand Slam. That was 1989. Norman Black won the Grand Slam with Mon Fernandez on that team. Hector and Sam Boy and that whole group. That was the year I joined the PBA. So San Miguel has always been that marker, the one we always try to reach, and that was our goal, to be the next San Miguel when I joined Alaska.
Coach, Prof?
Yeah, I was about to ask Coach, you mentioned you came into Vintage Sports as an analyst. How was the transition from being an analyst to coaching? What move led to that?
Well, thank goodness. Because
how did you eventually end up coaching? For those of our audience who
well, thank goodness that was a short career, because I was terrible at it. And if I hadn't left to coach, they would have fired me pretty soon. I was really terrible at it. I mean, I had a lot of good things to say, and I really knew what I wanted to say. I thought I had a really good insights in the game, but I just delivered it terribly. I was terrible at delivering what I wanted to say. But the transition, it made it a lot easier because I understood the game. I watched it. I watched every game every night because I was, and I had to analyze. I was an analyst, so I had to analyze the game every night. So by the time I, slid into coaching, I already had a really good feel for the league. I knew the league inside and out more than most people from the outside. And I had an intimate knowledge of a lot of the players because I had to watch their game and really break down their play, and I had to break down the coaches. So it made the transition a lot easier, I think. And I think that's why analysts normally end up being good coaches. Pat Riley was an analyst. A lot of coaches come from the booth and go in. Steve Kerr was an analyst.
Yes.
And so I think that really kind of eases the way in, because you really do have to think as a coach when you are analyzing the game.
Budge?
Yeah, Coach. So we're talking about coaching right now. So you went from being an analyst to becoming the coach and the face of the franchise for Alaska. Tell us about something about having those players that started with Yoyoy Villamin, Enrique Relosa, Abid Gidabin, going to the Lastimosa, Abarientos, Hawkins era, and then the Kenneth Durandez era. So how was it handling a very young franchise at that time, but has a lot of potential? How were you able to mesh it together?
Well, that was really a lot of trials and tribulations back in those days. I was like the seventh oldest, or no, I'm sorry, there were 7 players older than me on the team when I joined Alaska. And you mentioned the names: Abit, Ricky, Yo-Yo, Ray Lazaro, Willie Pearson. These guys were all older than me when I joined the team. So it was hard at the beginning to really establish, the respect and the relationships that you needed to have to be successful as a coach. I remember that we started we won our first 4 games as a coach, I believe, and they were calling me. There was actually, I was, everybody was talking about how good we were playing, and then we went and lost 7 of our next 8. After that, we started off with 4 wins, then we lost 7 of our next 8. And I remember so well, there was a headline in the sports page of I think it was the Manila Times. There was a headline in the sports page, and it said, "Cone, from genius to idiot." And
oh, wow.
Wow, that's too much.
Harsh.
Whoa, that's why I remember it so well.
Yeah.
Whoa, wow. And so there was a lot of, and I went through a battle with the BCAP at that time, Basketball Coaches Association in the Philippines. There was a long history of that. So there was a lot of trials and tribulations. We didn't win our championship until '91. And that was after Abit was gone and Ricky was gone and a lot of the older players had gone already. And the thing I remember after '91, we still had Yo-Yo and a number of veterans. But I remember going into a meeting with Fred Uitensu and Waki Trillo. And, we had decided that, we had a vision for the team, and that the current crop of players was not within the vision. And we knew that we were going to have to try to make changes and to fulfill our vision as an organization. We wanted to get younger, as you mentioned. We wanted to have a younger vibe, not only for basketball, but also for the marketing part of Alaska. So we really put together a plan. And the great thing about that plan is that because Mr. Uitensu and because Waki Trillo was involved in that, they knew it wasn't going to come easy, and they were willing to be patient and let it go. So we went from '91 to '94, and we were from the championship. We went into '94, and we were absolutely terrible. I mean, just terrible. We were then we started, sorry, my wife just walked in.
No problem.
That's why you were. That's why you were starstruck.
That's love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
That is. It's true then.
So anyway, it was. They knew it was going to take a while. So from '94 to '91 to '94, we were a terrible team. In fact, '93 was the worst year ever in Alaska's the history, the record. And so at the end of '93, I had a lunch with Mr. Uitensu, and he actually took me there and said that we may have to let you go because we got to turn this thing around more quickly. And we talked it out, and he continued with me, and then that was when we went to Guam. I told you when end of '93, we had went to Guam, and we won that tournament, and then we started winning in '94. We went 3-2-1, third place, second place, first place, won our second championship, and then we got 2-2-1, and then we went 1-1-1. And
wow.
But we had, through the draft, we traded for JoJo, which was a big trade. We traded Boy Kabahu for JoJo after we won the championship. No, after we lost the championship to Baby Dalupan, the first one. And then we drafted Johnny And after we drafted John Droney before 93, and then we traded for Bong Hawkins. We traded Bong Alvarez for Bong Hawkins. And then we drafted Portuino the following year, and then the following year after that, we drafted Jeffrey Carriazo. So that was it was a building process. It was a real, as opposed to being with Pure Foods. When I came into Pure Foods was a made team. You know, James, si PJ, si Ping, Daming Magaling Jan. And then I came to Inebra, and Inebra, Greg Slaughter, Mark Aguiwa, Japeth, LA, so those were made teams. But with Alaska, it was all about development and sticking to the process and making sure we were doing things the right way and having a vision and always pushing towards that vision. So that was really the key for us. And then, of course, you mentioned Kenneth Duremdis. We traded for Kenneth later on after we won the Grand Slam and nearly won a second one, if not for the Centennial team.
Yeah,
exactly.
and Kenneth was a real reason why we were playing at that high, continued to play at that high level, or got back to that high level. Kenneth was a very, very, very special player. One of the most special players I've been around. I'm talking about in terms of pure talent. He was an incredibly talented player.
Yeah, Captain Marbel, right?
Captain Marbel. I was supposed to have a follow-up question.
I never realized that Captain Marvel was a girl. Did you know that?
Later on, right?
I never realized that. I heard Captain Marvel was Kenneth, and it was taken after Captain Marvel. And I always thought, then I see the movie, and it's a girl. I go, wait a minute, Kenneth, you were a girl.
I wonder what Kenneth is feeling right now, right? That's my moniker. Yes, Prof, you were saying?
Yeah, I was supposed to ask about which Grand Slam is more difficult to win, but it seems like Coach has already answered it during the rebuilding process.
Actually, no.
In Alaska.
That's absolutely opposite.
Okay.
By the time we got to 96, Alaska was already at a super high level. We were playing great. We'd already won. We won in 94. We won a championship in 95. We were already at a very high level. We'd already gotten all the pieces of the puzzle. And we went to that final conference, in the championship conference. We went to the final conference, and we won 13 games in a row in that conference. I mean, we just dominated that conference. And then we played Inebra in the finals, and we beat them. We were leading 3-0 and beat them 4-1. It was just like it almost seemed like a walk in the park to win that Grand Slam, that champion. Pure Foods, on the other hand, I mean, we just struggled and struggled and struggled the whole year. We were never the top seeded. We were like 6th seed and then 5th seed and then 6th seed going into the playoffs. And we came down to that last game against Rainer Shine. Yang Yao was coaching. And it was we were up by 2 points. And it was 30 seconds to go, and Rainer Shine had the ball, and Paul Lee, and somehow we had a defensive breakdown, and Paul Lee got wide open for a 3-point shot, absolutely wide open, nobody within 10 feet of him. He shoots it, it goes, hits the rim, and rolls around and goes out. And then,
what a break.
Yeah, what a break. And then they get the rebound, they still get the rebound. And then they throw it out to Jeff Chan. And Jeff Chan is wide open, standing at the 3, and everybody's in the rebound. He's wide open at the 3. He shoots it, and it goes around, hits the rim twice, and goes out. And again, he misses it. And then the ball goes out of bounds. It's Rainer Shine's favor. And so Rainer Shine calls a timeout. They get the ball again, and their import, what was his name? The import from San Miguel. Can't remember his name. But anyway, they get the ball to the import, and the import.
I think it was it Arizona Reed, if I'm not mistaken, Coach?
Yes, it was Arizona Reed. And Arizona Reed gets the ball from the out-of-bounds play, turns on the 3-point line, ball fakes, we jump, and he steps in, and he shoots a leaning 3-point shot, and it literally hits right off the back of the rim. Boom. And goes out. The buzzer goes off, and we win the Grand Slam. Any of those 3 shots go in, we probably lose the Grand Slam. I mean, it's just amazing the way that happened. that we were able to do. So the Pure Foods one was just really, really difficult. We were exhausted the whole time. There was no break throughout that whole conference because we were rushing each conference for the national team.
Yes.
We played. I remember this day at the end of the first conference. We won the championship, and then we started the next conference 2 days later. And our first game was 4 days after the championship. We had to play again 4 days after we won the championship. Of course, the guys are all hungover, and and that's why
still high on the high.
Yeah, still we had to struggle to get back into that conference because we started each conference so slowly.
And that's the thing, Coach. Another question on that thing. You know, in the NBA, repeating champions is very hard. More of making a three-peat. In the Philippines, there's 3 cups, right? At the 3 conferences, doing a Grand Slam and everything. So, with that, what is your secret on maintaining that high level of winning tradition? And not only in one team, in one franchise, you did it in a totally different team.
Well, I think, it started with Alaska because I learned so much from Alaska because I was there for so long and the ownership had such great patience and allowed me to go up and down. I learned a lot from my failures. Everybody talks about the 13 championships we won with Alaska, but I think we were 13 for 22. So we went to the finals 9 other times and lost it. And so, we had our down times and we had our failures, but because I was able to survive and live through that, again, because of, ownership's patience, I created a lot of learning. You do your best learning from your losing, not from your winning. And so I was able to bring a lot of that to Pure Foods and then bring it again to Ginebra. I think the key is that we learned at Alaska to be very process oriented, to really worry about what was right in front of us, not worry about that out the winning. We were really a day-to-day process team, and that's what I brought to Pure Foods, and that's what we tried to emphasize with Ginebra. The day-to-day process, the day-to-day practice. I'm really a practice coach. I'm not a game coach. I don't even really like coaching the games that much, but I love coaching practice. And so, that's my big kick. And so, if we can be as perfect as we can in practice, then we know we're going to bring that perfection to a basketball game, and to the game itself. So that's kind of our attitude. And in terms of sustaining winning, it's really learning how to move on. It's really learning how to move on, and that's a process. That's a hard thing to learn. I learned a lot of it by reading about Phil Jackson, a lot of his books, and he talks about moving on, and of course that goes a lot with his meditation and all that stuff. But he just really talks a lot about moving on, moving beyond. And we have an expression called "yesterday ended last night" that we've been using through the years, and it really just tells us that yesterday was done. We can't do anything about it. We've got to move forward. And so it's always what's right in front of us, not behind us, not out there, but what's right in front of us. And so that's basically the attitude that we brought to Pure Foods and we brought to tried to bring with Ginebra. Be very foundational. Don't try to win right away. Let me give you a real, a key here. And people talk about it, but it's just really true. The more you try not to win right away, the more you will win right away. I mean, I just really believe that, because if you try to win right away, you have a tendency to shortcut, try to find a way to get there. And if you just focus on, I'm not going to care about winning, I'm just going to care about what I'm doing now. And I'm talking about this not only in basketball, but in business or your life or whatever. You worry about the day and what you're doing today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Trouble is we always have a tendency to look tomorrow and look forward and want to get there in a hurry, and we shortcut our way. But if you're foundational, you do the right thing every day, money that tomorrow will come in a hurry. And I learned that with Pure Foods. We won our championship in the second conference. And then by Never, we won it in the third. And we went into that first practices telling our guys, you know, we're not going to win. I don't even care about winning. We're not going to worry about winning right now. All we're going to do is just build a foundation and work from that foundation. And luckily, the guys bought in, and we all surprised ourselves.
I'm learning a lot here. A lot. Not just in basketball, but in life.
I'm taking down quotes.
Yes. Coach Tim, do you have any rituals in, you know, letting go and moving forward after, for example, a loss? Do you have any special activities that, okay, I have to do this so I can take my mind off from the loss?
I think there's a lot of different techniques you can do, but I think you hit it the nail on the head when you said take your mind off. That's the first thing I try to do. Like Richard Del Rosario, my assistant coach, when we lose a game, you know, he'll race back to his house and put it on the video and then go through it. And I cannot do that. I just cannot do that. I have to get away from the game. I have to let it kind of soak into me, you know, kind of get my emotions out of the game. And so I give it some time before, you know, I actually go. And it depends, of course, on how soon the next game is and, you know, how fast we have to prepare. So those are the things. But what I do is I read. I've always been a big reader, so I can read and just focus on the page and not, you know, let my mind get in the page. I read a lot of novels, a lot of fiction, and so I really go into the story. But you know, I find different ways of just trying to get my mind off it. And you know, I'll be mad for the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes or maybe an hour after the game, but after that, it's done. You know, it's absolutely done. Okay, that's done. We're moving on to the next. And then I'll just go in and do my thing, whatever I want to do to keep my mind off it. And then when I'm ready, I'll go back and watch the video, and then I'll start preparing for the next game.
Coach, I have a follow-up question on that thing. You were telling us a story about your Grand Slam with Pure Foods, with those 3 shots just rimming out, and eventually the horn sounded and you got your Grand Slam. There's always this thing as a one game that really, it's not haunted you for a long time, but something that you cannot really, the longest time you got over it, or a certain game that you
let go of,
let it go.
That's easy. That's the Centennial team.
Sure.
That sticks with me all the time, and it's particularly the Korean game in the semifinal.
Coach, I'm sorry. Before you continue, let me just say this: we still love you. We love the Centennial team.
I felt like the most unloved person in the world at that moment when we lost to Korea, and then, of course, we lost to China as well the next game. But we played great against China, and we had a chance to beat China. And China ended up beating Korea by 40 points in the finals. So we lost to them by 5 or 7 points, and 5 points I think it was. And it was the first time they hadn't won by more than double digits in like 3 or 4 years in that national team in Asia. So we played them really well. And then we ended up beating Kazakhstan and getting the bronze. But that was a moment where that broke me. When that thing was all over and all finished, I was a broken man. That was a tough time for me. Tough time. I feel like I let the whole country down, and felt like, you know, all the weight of it. And it took me a while to recover. When I got back to the PBA and started coaching the PBA, and I noticed this about all the national team coaches. When they actually returned to their team, it was a struggle to get emotionally back into the game, back into their own players, and moving forward from it. Because the national team is just so different, you know. You're playing you're coaching for not for yourself anymore, or even for your players. You know, you're coaching for something that's so much bigger. And when you don't succeed, it feels like such a bigger failure, and it's hard to shake. And I went probably 2 or 3 conferences before I started to really feel like myself again, coaching in the PBA. And I noticed that with Yang, I noticed that with Chot Reyes, I noticed that with Norman Black. I think it's a kind of like a natural letdown that you have. But it was an emotional time, tough time. I still think about that a lot. That's one I can't move far from. There's been a few other games too, but ultimately, you don't get a chance to do the Asian games again. So PBA, you lose a championship or you lose a big game, you got the next game coming up. So you learn to move it, get rid of it and move forward, because if you take that one into the next one, it's going to be a distraction, and you're not going to bring your best into the next game, and chances are you lose. Now, I must add, early in my career, when I was starting off with Alaska, I did not understand that at all. I did not understand that idea of moving forward. And we used to have these 5, 6, 7 game losing streaks with Alaska, and I would wonder, what am I doing wrong? But what would happen is that every time we'd lose, I'd get a little bit more depressed, a little bit more angry. I'd come into practice angry. And of course, if I'm coming into practice angry, the players are playing angry, and everybody, they're gibbering, and it wasn't until I learned to put it away and come in with a better attitude that I started to discover, hey, this works. And then I started reading about Phil Jackson and stuff, and I started to, add on to what I was thinking. And then I started experimenting with that more, and I just started finding more success. And I use that now all the time, and we talk about it all the time, and the players adopt it all the time. And so it's just so much easier to handle it that way. It's so easy to get depressed, and it's a battle. It takes a lot of discipline not to get depressed. But once you've achieved that discipline and that habit, your life becomes a lot easier and a lot smoother.
But Coach, again, the Centennial team is one of the most important teams in the history of Philippine basketball. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, and DJ Dudes, I think, part of it ever, and what we do there. My wife is sticking her head out, taking her head in the door. They're from Guam. I'm being interviewed from Guam, Chris. Oh, yes. No, I'm not finished yet. I told her about it like 10 times. She thought I was on a team Zoom meeting. Team Zoom meeting. I had one last night at 7 p.m. at the same time. So
this is Team Guam.
Team Guam, yes.
Team Guam, yeah.
That impressed her. That really impressed her.
Okay.
It's like that one, it wasn't some program. It was from Guam.
Thank you so much for sharing, Coach Tim.
Okay, let's go to Coach. What you call this? Prof. Ask about the things that we're talking about the players. Players that top.
Well, so basically, one thing before we move forward, I think the Centennial team was the last team to win a medal in the Asian Games. Am I not
in the Asian Games?
Correct, right?
Yes,
bronze. Yeah. And we've never won since, right?
No,
so I think that's a very good consolation.
Back then, it's Consuelo de Bobo, Back then, it was like, that's what it was. It was really Consuelo de Bobo. I mean, we won a bronze, and I was so upset with the bronze, and I didn't want to think about it and everything. And of course, 20 years later, it's like that's the last medal we had. So everybody thinks, wow, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I tell you, back then in 1998, that was like spit, we did not like that bronze. We didn't want it. Nobody wanted it. Nobody on the team, nobody in the country.
But they still stand until now, so it's still a great achievement.
Yeah, it's still a record.
It is.
My wife says, well, at least you won the bronze. I go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
What I like is being able to coach the Southeast Asian Games this last year. When I coached the Southeast Asian Games,
yes. Congratulations, Coach.
It was a walkover, but still, the idea of having one more chance to coach the national team and come away successful, even though I was expected to be successful, it took a little bit of the hurt off that Centennial team. bronze.
Coach, the national team is still looking for a head coach, right now. Are you considering?
No,
Yeah.
Is there a chance?
they aren't considering me. They're looking a lot elsewhere. No, I think that the great thing about what they're doing now is that they're developing some continuity, or at least that's their plan. And so they want to get a long-term coach. And I don't know if the way things set up, can you coach Ginebra and the national team at the same time? I personally wouldn't want to split my attention, because I think that if I coached the national team, I wouldn't be giving my full all to Ginebra. And if I was coaching, Ginebra, I wouldn't give my full all to the national team. It's hard when you're splitting the time. And I found that out when I was coaching the Southeast Asian games. It was hard to split. And I was always feeling guilty, like I'm not doing enough for Ginebra and I'm not doing enough for the national team. So I think it needs to be somebody who's going to be full-time.
Great. So, Coach,
But we are all
we're talking.
hoping
I have
that.
no plans. I have no plans to leave Ginebra, that's for sure.
All right. Yes, we are secured. We
love
are secured.
As long as they want me.
Go ahead, Prof.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Oh,
Yeah, no problem, Coach. So we're talking about national teams. If you were to let's talk about fantasy basketball. If you were to put up your all-time starting five from all the teams that you've coached, Ginebra, Alaska, Pure Foods, who would they be? Who would be your all-time
per position?
starting?
Are we talking about per position or positionless?
Let's probably start with the positionless. I don't know, because right now we play positionless basketball, right?
Yeah.
Well, I always think of it in terms of position, even though we are in positionless basketball. The problem with naming a team like that is there's always somebody you leave out. You got to leave somebody out. And
We can do an honorable mention.
I've coached 30 years, and can you imagine the amount of players I've coached and names?
Exactly.
Let's think of Pure Foods for a minute. You got James Yap, you got PJ, you got Ping. You got all those guys there just on that one team. Joe Devance, the guys that. You got LA, you got Ginebra, you got LA, you got Mark Kagiwa, you got Japeth, I got JJ Helterbrand that I was able to coach. It was great coaching him. I actually coached Kirby Raimundo for a while when he was at Pure Foods. And then you got that great Alaska team. Johnny, Jojo, Bong, Sean, Butch, Kenneth, Jeffrey. It's just really hard to pick.
It's going to be hard.
I will tell you that the one player that would be going on absolutely unquestioned would be Johnny Abarientos.
Johnny A.
Unquestioned.
Johnny A.
Coach, you were the one coaching him at the time that he was about to knock into the PBA, right? You were there. You're a witness of that thing, right?
What do you mean? What?
You were the one coaching him when the scouts from the NBA.
He was the MVP, MVP.
Yeah, I was there at the meeting with the lead scout of the Charlotte Hornets. I told the story a number of times. It was at the Peninsula Hotel, and they had a suite. He had come first. His name escapes me for the moment. What was his name? But he was a well-known scout in the NBA, and he was touring Asia, and he was China. They were just starting to discover China at that time, so he was on his way to China. And he stops in Manila to watch our league, and he sees Johnny play. And he goes to see Johnny after the game. And I didn't know this until later. But he met with Johnny after the game, and he tells Johnny, look, we might have some interest in you. I have to go to China tomorrow, but I'll be back, and then maybe we can talk. And so later on, Johnny tells me and Anton Montinola, who was the lead of FEU, and that was his mentor from FEU. And so Anton and I and Johnny, when the guy arrives, he goes to the peninsula. And so he calls us in and says, come visit us. So we go up there and go talking to him. And he was talking about we'd like to sign him for a 10-day contract. And he was really, really serious about it. And I almost thought it was a done deal. The only thing that was funny about it is that Johnny kind of hesitated and said, well, yeah, at the time. He did. He kind of hesitated and said, well, because that was the time of the Centennial team, the national team.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, the national team is coming up, and I'm supposed to play for the national team. I'm not sure I'll be able to leave and do a 10-day contract. So, he's like, my country needs me. And but yeah, he just happened to mention that in the conversation. I remember that vividly, that he was kind of like, well, I have to do the national team. I was like, shh, Johnny, shh, go. Go to the NBA.
It
I was
could have been.
I was giving him an elbow in the ribs.
It could have been, historic on that part, yeah.
Yeah, but what happened was, so he left, and he said he'd stay in contact, and then I think it was 2 days later or 3 days later, Charlotte ended up making a trade for 2 point guards from the Golden State Warriors. And the reason they were interested in Johnny, I should say, is because Spud Webb was hurt. Muggsy
Bogues.
Yeah.
Muggsy Bogues is hurt, and they thought Johnny would be good in that system because it was designed for a small point guard, which Muggsy Bogues was even smaller than Johnny, and they thought Johnny could do a lot of the things Muggsy could do, and so it made sense for them to go out and get a guy that was similar, because that's what they were used to and what their system demanded. But they ended up getting Spider Claxton.
Speedy Claxton.
Speedy Claxton.
Yeah, played for the Spurs. Yeah,
from and another point guard from the Golden State Warriors, and they traded for them. So he called Johnny a couple times down the line. He said, "I didn't even know this trade was happening, but we'll keep you in mind, but we don't have the space for you right now." So that's why it didn't happen. It was because they made that trade instead, basically.
Coach, thank you for that story. I guess we have to thank Mr. Johnny Abarrientos for choosing the Philippines first for an NBA career. So
but
Johnny was special, man.
But imagine this. Larry Abarrientos passing to Larry Johnson and then going a rebound to Alonzo Mourning. That would be awesome as well.
He would have stole the rebound from Alonzo. That's for sure.
Out rebound.
Alonzo would have been looking for him, trying to punch him because he would have stolen that.
Coach, we have talked about your favorite players. Let's talk about now the other coaches. Do you have any favorite rival?
A rival being a favorite? Are you kidding me? He's a favorite rival.
Or you had difficulty coaching against.
The guy that I've said this recently. The guy that really, just beat me up my whole career. Just won every big game we ever played against each other. Really embarrassed me in some series was Ryan Gregorio of Pure Foods.
Pure Foods,
Ryan just, for some reason, had my number, and I hated him for it. No, we're actually good friends, but I just, gosh, I think my family hated Ryan. My wife, my daughter hated Ryan Gregorio because he would always beat us up, and he shouldn't, always have an angry car going home, and she just hated Ryan. Yang Yao has always been really tough. As I mentioned earlier, I entered the league when Norman was winning the Grand Slam. So Norman was always the standard bearer for me. I was always chasing Norman. So we've always had such huge battles over the years. You know, you always get a little motivated when you're going after that standard bearer. So Norman, and my good friend Chart Reyes, of course. Chart was my assistant coach for a number of years, and he was my assistant at the Centennial team, and
yes,
his assistant for the national team later on. So, you know, we reversed roles, and we've had some real big, huge battles when he was at Pure Foods and Coke, even San Miguel for a short time, and of course later on Talk and Text. But I would probably say those four. Leo, Austria, of course, is becoming a big rival right now because of, you know, we're always trying to beat San Miguel. But again, you're over 30 years. You've been around a lot of coaches. I mean, I coached against my boss, Al Francis Chua. I mean, there's just so many coaches. I coached against Dante Silverio. I coached against Baby DeLupan. You know, I mean,
wow.
Way back to way forward.
That's a generation.
Jimmy Mariano. I coached against Jimmy Mariano. You know, so there's been a lot of guys that I could really call rivals through the years.
Wow.
Coach,
been
thank
around
you so
a long
much.
time.
Yes.
You guys don't realize how old I am.
No, actually, it doesn't show, Coach.
It doesn't show. It doesn't show.
You maybe just started when you were, as you said a while ago, when you entered the league on that Alaska team, 8 players were older than you. So you were way young when you started. So that's the reason why right now you have this generation that you coach against.
I was 31
Wow.
when I started.
Very young, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I'm 62. I'm entering my 31st year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this will be my 31st year.
That's a Grand Slam also, 310 years.
3 decades.
10 years.
Yes.
The first break I had
One more Grand Slam.
years was the pandemic. This is the first break I had in 31 years.
The first break in 31 years.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. Then we had a break from basketball for 30 years.
Bodge, Professor, any questions for? Yes.
I was about to ask Coach. So, Coach, you're and correct me if I'm wrong. You're about to enter the bubble. I think this in the next few days. How are you guys preparing for it? You know, are there any special precautions that you're doing?
Well, there's a lot of protocols that have been handed down by the Department of Health that we have to follow. In fact, tomorrow we're going for a swab test, and then we have to isolate ourselves for 5 days before we leave for Clark. So we'll be leaving in Clark on Tuesday. Some of the teams are leaving on Monday. We're scheduled on Tuesday, and we'll leave for Clark on Tuesday, and then we'll be tested again before we enter the bubble. But it will be a very strict bubble in the beginning. There'll be quarantining basically in our room. It's not going to be a NBA Disney World type bubble, you know, where they have all those facilities and everything. This is going to be a lot harder, but I think every player understands it. You know, we don't have all the facilities that they do, so we have to make do with what we have. And it's going to be difficult. You know, right now, all we've been able to do is do 4-man cluster practices. That means we can have four players in practice. And so we have like we go like 7 to 8:30 is the first practice, and then 9:30, because we have to give time to disinfect the gym and all the equipment. So the next cluster goes at 9:30 to 11, and the next cluster goes 12 to 1:30, and the fourth cluster goes 2 to 4:30. 2:30 to 4. And so that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And that was the first time we've actually done anything since, you know, January in terms of practicing. I guess we practiced for a couple of weeks right before the pandemic hit. But so, you know, our guys are going from shape that's here and trying to get to shape that's way, you know, to here, because this is. We were talking I asked the guys, because we were talking about how important it is to get in shape and how difficult it is. It's one thing to maintain shape. You know, it's like if you've ever tried to lose weight, it's easier to maintain your weight than it is to gain weight and then try to lose it. It's very difficult to do that. But if you careful what you eat and you keep your exercise up, you can kind of maintain yourself. But if you go out and you binge and you gain 8, 10, 12 pounds, and then you want to try to lose that,
it's gonna be hard.
I mean, you got to it's really hard. You got to be incredibly disciplined and go through a lot of pain to get rid of those 8 or 10, 12 pounds. And that's basically what's happened to our players. They went. Even though they worked out daily and did their thing, there wasn't a lot of aerobic workouts because they were stuck at home. So it was mostly just weights, and then, when you lift weights or you do resistance bands or whatever, strength conditioning, what's your tendency? You get hungry, you eat. So, everybody eating and lifting weights and it's a natural process. And they weren't able to get out of their house and do, a lot of heavy aerobic stuff. So that's basically what we've been trying to do over the last 2 weeks is get that aerobics, that cardio up, and it's gone from 0. And we're trying to get it to 100, within a couple of weeks, and that usually we're going 80 to 100, barely we're going 60 to 100, but now we're going literally 0 to 100 and
to 100.
Really,
wow.
Yeah. And the thing is that you really open yourself up to injuries. And but we can't extend the bubble really long, go a month and a half of practice, to get ready for the games, because it would just get too expensive to keep a bubble going for 3.5, 4 months. And nobody wants to be away from their family for 3.5, 4 months. My angry wife, who stepped in here a couple of times, is angry because I'm going to a bubble. I'm not going to see her for 2.5 months.
Wow.
Imagine.
Wow.
And Joe DeVance and his wife Monica, they're moving to a new house. They just made a deal in a house a couple of weeks ago, and they're supposed to move in the middle of October. And guess where Joe's going to be? Joe's going to be in the bubble, and she's going to have to do all the moving with their 5 kids, and I mean, their 5 kids.
Oh my!
They move their whole house into another house, and by herself. So those are the things that these guys are having to go through. So it's not an easy thing. But I keep reminding our guys, we're getting back to doing something we love. We have great passion for. We love the game. We have great passion for the game, and the sacrifices we got to make to do that will all be worth it at the end. So that's the thing we got to focus on. We got to come in positive. Come in looking at what we can do rather than the things that we can't do. And I think the team who does that the best is the team that's going to be successful in the bubble. And that's basically what the attitude Eric Spoelstra brought to the Miami Heat when they went to the bubble. And they've been highly successful doing that right now. So I've been following their model. Well, at least I'm going to try to follow their model.
Well, Coach, thank you for the sacrifices that you will be doing, especially for this bubble. We all know that
players are going to be doing a lot more sacrifice than me.
But we are also excited to witness, games of PBA. We just miss it.
We are too. And we're just trying to work out all these guys, work out all the, we're going to have off-site scouting. We can't bring everybody in, so our analytics guys are going to be outside the bubble, and they're going to be shooting video and stuff to the bubble inside to us, so that we can be scouting. We're going to be playing games every other day, so we, and we're going to have limited personnel. We have our 15 players. We have to have our utility staff, our masseuses, the guys that, because again, these guys are going to be sore and angry. They're going to need a lot of PT and training work. So most of our staff is going to be utility and training staff. The coaching staff is going to be limited. So a lot of the stuff is going to have to come from off-site. So that's another thing that we have to organize, all that off-site stuff that's coming into us. And again, 2.5 months, we can't leave the bubble. So if we need something, somebody's going to have to get it from the outside and ship it to us. We can't go leave and get something. And you heard that if you leave the bubble, 100,000 peso fine.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
You lose 1 month's salary.
Oh.
And you're also suspended 5 games for the 5 games into the next, whatever the next tournament may be, the next conference may be.
Without pay. That's five games
pay,
without
yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
wow.
really stiff.
So it's
So
a lot of
stay
money.
in,
Very stiff, yeah.
stay in the
If
bubble.
you leave, you can't come back in either. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and so they're taking it very seriously.
Patience and discipline. That's what we expect from. That's going to be tested actually on this
You
bubble.
bet.
Well,
You bet.
yeah.
We got a bunch of good guys. I'm not worried about our guys trying to violate or. You remember the guy? Who was it? House? Was it House?
House from
Yeah. Houston.
Houston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking a girl and
He just brought in company. He was just sad.
For moral
I know-
support.
I know what kind of girl it was. I got sources inside the bubble. He got caught, and then he lost all of his salary, and he got suspended, and he's thrown out of the bubble and never came back. He was their 6th man in the middle of a championship series. So
Yeah.
that was huge.
And
That was a huge loss.
And I think also the people that are waiting for him outside threw him out of that bubble as well because they found out.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
you're really letting down your teammates.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
They depend on you.
Teammates and the teammates' families. We always talk about our players that you do something against your teammate, you're doing something against their family as well because you're depriving their family a championship, and that changes their lives. So that's why we're all in this together. We know that. So I think that we got a really good group. We got a veteran group with a sprinkling of a couple of young guys. We got a good leadership group in our team. So through LA and Mark. And Joe DeVance and others, they're good leaders. So they will mentor the younger guys. So I don't think we'll have a problem. I don't think we will have a problem. Can't speak for the other teams though, but I think we'll be disciplined, do the right things.
Professor Bodge, any last questions for Coach Tim Cone?
Well, for
Not
me,
really a question. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bodge.
Okay, well, for me, I just want to say, Coach, thank you very much for the sacrifices that you're going to be doing again. And one thing for sure, this will help the people who were stuck, the regular people who was a big fan of the PBA, to have a sort of entertainment in their homes while you guys are getting back into that grind again, the basketball thing, the thing that you love to do is something that will be helpful for the people outside to go on to move forward with their days also, just to entertain them.
Honestly, I think primarily that's why we're doing it. So we're doing it for people out, that are stuck in the pandemic and want to see basketball and want to see their local heroes. I just. I think this is a great thing. I know the PBA is spending a lot of money to get this thing done, and they're sacrificing a lot, financially to do this. And I think primarily, again, we won't have the fans. And imagine we'll be playing without our Ginebra crowd.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
The same
That's going to be
Guys.
that's going to be
So,
tough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we react to that. But we're going to miss our fans, obviously, and. We certainly love our fans, but primarily that's what we're doing this for. And I know it's been a tough haul. It's been tough for everybody. It's been tough for some people more than others. That's for darn sure. But it's been tough for everybody. And we can bring a little joy, a little excitement, then all the better. And again, it's a sacrifice, but it's not. I mean, we're still getting paid for this. And so it's not that big of a sacrifice for us. This is what we do. This is what we love. So we love entertaining the fans.
Coach, you know very well that we will be there with you in spirit.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
I just hope I can win a few games for you.
There you go.
All right, that's always the pressure, trying to win for the Ginebra fans.
There you go.
There's always that pressure on us all the time, but that's a good pressure because it keeps us moving, keeps us motivated, keeps us fixated on the big prize. So, that's always a good pressure.
Professor?
So I just wanted to thank Coach for, of course, all the sacrifice and honor he brought to the country, and inspiration, because right now all of our countrymen are needing that in this time of pandemic, and that's really what heroes inspire. So you're our hero, and you guys are there to inspire the millions and millions of Filipinos that are stuck in their homes and really trying to get through this pandemic. So thank you, Coach, and for the Ginebra team, and Coach, stay safe in the bubble.
Can I just add something before we go?
Sure, Coach.
Everybody talks about the Ginebra never say die attitude, and I just want to say that, to me, never say die means having that strength of character, strength of will to face adversity straight on and never give up. That's basically what never say die is, and that's never more appropriate to all of us in this pandemic. To those people who are listening, and I hope we can communicate this when we get into the bubble and we start playing, is that we want to continue that never say attitude, show it and mentor it to everybody. One of the things that we have found, and we talked a lot about with our team, is that the reason that never say die attitude is with us is because the fans are always so encouraging to us. Whenever we feel down, we get down 10 points in a basketball game, our fans are still cheering. We make one shot, they're going crazy. Other teams, if they get down by 10 or 12, the players have a tendency to slump their shoulders, feel bad, maybe talk amongst each other, but for us, our fans always keep us up. They always continually encourage us. And that's what gives us we never want to quit, because the fans are always encouraging us. So I use that word encouraging. Encouragement means filling with spirit. So it's such a valuable tool. And the opposite is discouragement, when that's ripping the spirit out of you. When you get discouraged, you lose your energy, you lose your faith in what you're doing. And so I just want to make sure that I communicate what we try to do. We try to encourage each other. We allow the crowd, the member crowd, to encourage us, and that fills us with spirit. And I think that everybody in this pandemic, that they learn to encourage your family member, encourage your coworker, and most especially encourage yourself. If you learn to encourage yourself, you'll be able to get through this pandemic a lot with a completely different look, and it'll help you through. And that's what's helped us through so many tough moments at Ginebra, was that never say die attitude that's given to us from the encouragement of our fans. So I beg everyone to be encouragers. Learn to be encouragers. It'll make life so much easier.
Great.
Coach, beautiful. Thank you so much. Very well said. Thank you. Thank you. And believe us, you always encourage us. Bodge and Prof, I think we share the same emotions, right? There are few celebrities and personalities, particularly in the Philippines, that just knowing that they are around, we are lifted already. We have that hope already. And one of those personalities and celebrities is actually Coach Tim Cone.
Wow, that says a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it. Really. I mean, that's probably one of the best compliments I've ever had. I really
Coach, really, from the heart, thank you so much. I do have one last request, Coach.
No song.
I hope you don't.
I don't sing. No song.
Okay, next. Okay, plan B. Coach, this is one of my favorite books of all time, and it talks about basketball of the Filipinos. It talks about actually about you, about your teams. My request is, if please, for us fans, if you could write
my copy. I have one around here.
if you could author your own book about your journey, about your
Actually, I am in the middle of doing one.
Oh,
all right.
Oh, why? Okay.
In the middle of, in fact, I started it at the start of the pandemic, and I would say, I've got over 100,000 words written down already, and but I'm still 30 years is a lot of information to put down in 30 years. So I'm still working on it. But I don't know honestly if I'll ever finish it, but it's there. And but yeah, I've been doing that. And actually, the title of the book, if it stays that way, is 30 years and counting. It's my 30 years
and counting.
Wow.
It's my 30 years.
Looking forward
Yes.
to that book. Looking forward. Coach, thank you very much.
We will buy 30 copies each.
Yeah,
30 copies each. Yeah.
I'm going to try to work. Honestly, I'm going to try to work on it when I'm in the bubble. It'll be one of my projects in the bubble, aside from, of course, doing the work. But if I have downtime, I'm going to continue to work on the book. So we'll see.
Okay.
Funny you should mention it.
Thank you. We are so excited about that. Okay, Coach Tim Cone, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all the things that you have done to the Filipinos, to the Philippines, to the sports of basketball, and to us fans. Thank you so much, Coach.
You've been too kind. Thank you very much, guys. You've been too kind. Thank you.
And to our bros, the Professor, Matt Lesser Batel, Prof, thank you so much to you.
Again, thank you very much, DJ Dudes. Bodge, thank you very much. Coach, thank you very much. To all our listeners, always stay safe. To all the PBA players that are about to go into the bubble, always stay safe, and our prayers are with you. And again, what we've been saying all the time: if you don't have a need to go out, just stay home with your family.
Thank you, Prof. And to our wired man, Mr. Bojo Molina. Bodge, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Coach, again. And to the listeners, one thing I picked up from this conversation is to move forward. What happened yesterday ended at midnight. You go move forward already. So whatever challenges we have right now, if we had a challenge today because of whatever, might be pandemic, might be financial, might be family, might be anything, that ended actually midnight tonight, and move forward.
And again, thank you, Coach Tim Cone. Maraming salamat po. And to you, Mega Bigsers.
All the best, man. All the best. This has been fun. I really, really enjoyed this. We'll have to do it again. Maybe when the bubble's all over, we can do it again.
Yes!
There you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
About the bubble. See what happened while we were in there.
Okay.
Okay?
God bless you,
We would love
Coach.
to have you
All
back.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Coach.
it. Okay.
Tim Cone, yes. And to you, of course, Bro Nation, thank you so much for always listening to us. My name is DJ Dudes, and I'm always reminding you, work hard, be kind, pray harder. Amazing things from God will definitely happen. And let's remember what Coach Tim Cone said, be an encourager. God bless everyone.